Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy, my channel's Finding Value. We're going to go over coal, do some technical analysis on coal, and also some ETFs, exchange traded funds. I've got a basket kind of in the back of exchange traded funds. I'm going to touch on the CRB index. It's looking fantastic. Looks like we're breaking to the upside in terms of the CRB. And coal, there's a couple of opportunities in coal that I think that maybe some people not only brought up on the channel, but they do look pretty good. I'll share those with you. And the ETFs, a lot of them are looking like they're turning to move on higher. So let's look at them. Again, this is my financial opinion. Please don't use this as advice and just use it as an opinion. So here we go. I'm going to jump in here. I call it coal, but there's ETFs at the end of this as well. So I'm going to start with the CRB. The CRB is an index of commodities. And what I have here, and I'll throw in a trend line. Let me see if I have one saved. No. Is we've broken this pattern right here. This was one that I was getting extremely excited about. And I was watching it. And, we broke out to the downside a little bit. We almost came down and we rocketed higher, right back up. Consolidated right at this point here. And consolidation just means that you're running into resistance and you have to cool off or move sideways for a little bit. Think of it as like a resting period. Think of it as an area where the buyers equal the sellers. And there's going to be a battle that's going to happen there. And what happens is they go to these highs and they rest for a little bit. And what I look for are the candlestick patterns themselves. I look at all of that. It all matters. And what I mean by the candlestick patterns, I look at how big they are and how they contract the opening and closing prices, where it could potentially turn, but it didn't. It shot higher. We see small sell-off, selling days. The red days are real small in opening and closing price. The body candlestick lengths. They basically came up and gathered right up on this resistance line, but the sellers had nothing. They were all tired out, or there's just wasn't many to begin with. And then we could see the break move and move higher. This is probably going to result in a good uptrend move because we're basically slowing down momentum-wise. And you can see that by you can chart how this trend line is not as steep as the one before it. You can see some large red sell-off days. I think that if you read some of the articles, some of the countries were trying to slow down some of the commodity moves. They were releasing stuff from reserves, copper, oil, in this time frame, May, June, July, all through here. But it looks like that just wasn't enough, at least to hold it down. And I don't know how you could hold this down. You'd have to release it and have like your own entire oil field. You'd have to be like a Saudi Arabia plus, because there just isn't that much out there. So when I look at this stuff, I look at all those things coming up to see if we're going to break. But this looks really good. Coal, again, if you look at a different perspective, I also look and try to recognize chart patterns. This one's got like a 1, 2, and then it usually punches higher. I've seen this a lot. This could be a very big pattern. Coal could move up quite a bit over the duration of the entire bull market. So this one looks pretty good in terms of pricing. The one that was recommended by a subscriber, Yangara Resources. And I'll be honest, this thing does look pretty good. Looking at it from a weekly, so when I mean weekly perspective, each candlestick is an entire week. And what I'm looking at is I'm looking for, what is this pattern scribing out? Is it scribing something out that it's about to break? Do we have a pattern that's forming on a very long-term scale? And then I look deeper than just that. I look at volume. The volume are these candlesticks, these big bars on the bottom here. That's volume. You can see the volume's picking up over here. And then I look at what the pattern may look like. It kind of looks like we're coming down, then we're moving on up. We broke this down. We broke a downtrend here. Let's do this. I'll put this here. Then you just rotate it out. We've got one right there. See it? And you could see how I drew that, and you could even draw it over, maybe capture this one, and there's another one down here below it. You could see it broke out, back tested, broke out, back tested. It's breaking through these resistance levels, and what happens is you run into these resistance levels, and you basically run into a barrage or braid of sellers. This one also exhibits almost to the T what the oil companies look like. It comes down, it pauses here, creates this like wing, and then it got sold off. It came back up just like the oil companies did, right back to this high here, and it's creating almost a shoulder, head, shoulder pattern. And we're putting in another shoulder with, it's called symmetry. Symmetry is if you were to cut this in half, this side moving up may look like the way it came down because you encounter buyers and sellers at the same points on the way down as you do on the way up. So you get the same stopping points, and it looks very similar of the move going up versus the move going down. So you almost get a reverse symmetry, which if we were to cut this in half at like this June here of 2020 or July, and you were to flip this over on this side, it would look very similar. Obviously not exactly the same, but similar. You could say the same thing for how this came down is similar to the way that it came up. A little bit less sell-offs, but it went up very nicely. So that's just some extra information, but this one looks pretty good. We broke the downtrend. Zooming in on it, this thing looks really good. It looks like we had a downtrend coming through here. We broke that. We're moving on up. We've got this nice little V bottom. Zooming in on this section there, this thing's looking really good. Nice, good 7% up day today. But I do like this move here. We broke the trend line here. Actually, I would draw it more like this. You can see that break there. Shoulder, head, shoulder, reverse. It's probably going to come all the way up here and then try breaking through. That's probably what I think. But this one looks really good if you guys want to look at that. Peabody Energy, you got a little bit of a sell-off going on here. It may pull back. So it doesn't, I mean, it's still in an uptrend. I just think you got a little bit of selling pressure in the near term. And then we'll see what happens. Arc Coal, this one looks really good. I don't see a whole bunch of sellers coming in here stomping it really anywhere, maybe just this one day. But this is a very healthy looking uptrend chart. Now, switching, I wanted to touch on copper too. Copper, this is a really good bullish engulfing candlestick here. This thing looks fantastic. If this breaks, I think we're going to see, I mean, the CRB index, I mean, we're coming around somewhere in that range there. What I think it's doing is setting up to break through it. That's what a bullish engulfing looks like right here. And that's a statistical probability that this could break to the upside. That's why it opened a little bit lower and closed way above it. This candlestick body, the white one here, engulfs the one before it. Looking at this here, we have a reversal pattern. Big buying pressure coming up. Bullish engulfing here. Smaller selling pressure coming down. Couldn't really do much. Big buying pressure coming up. Smaller buying pressure or selling pressure coming down. I think this is ready to break at any second. Could be tomorrow, could be a couple days, could be a week or two. But the pattern that, the footprint that people are putting down here from the buyers and the sellers is giving me confidence to go long and move higher here. And I went long in COPX. I put a good stake in this. I'm going to build this, the ETF up. I'm going to let my profits ride when this thing goes. I think it's ready to go at any second here. It looks like this. So whenever you kind of break out of these patterns, they kind of sometimes, I'll call it like they're walking around confused, even though they know they're going to go up. And that's where I load in. And it's like, this thing's ready to go. We just got to break out of this resistance area in this 38-ish area, and we're gone. And we might even see these, 46 or something up here, or maybe this is another entire full leg higher. But I like it. It looks good to me. COPX. I'm a buyer. Here's REMX. This was another one I liked. I put a huge amount in it back here on this break here. I was buying it into this strength here, and it broke, and I wrote it to somewhere up here, and I swapped it into TAN. And then I also swapped some other stuff into COPX. It's pulling back here, and then we're still continuing to move higher. I think this is a new uptrend. I left all my profits to ride, which was a good amount. I was up about 30%, and I'm just letting it ride. It's the Rare Earth Strategic Metals ETF. XLE, this thing's looking really good. I like it. Let's bring this down a little bit, about somewhere in there. We're breaking up. Looks like we could go potentially higher. Don't be afraid if these things sell off, like have little small down days next to it. Don't be afraid. We do have a bearish engulfing right here, so we'll see what this thing does in the short term. But long term, I'm a pretty big bull on energy. Here's TAN. TAN still looks pretty good. We do have these bearish engulfings sitting here, but we have two small down days and a hammer pattern. This thing's throwing crazy signals all over the place. This has good selling pressure, but came right into a hammer pattern, which usually means you're going to ride it higher through 4 small down days with 3 big up days, which means the buying pressure is to the upside. So we should see it move to the upside, where we move to the upside and then the sellers still are there. It's like, how are you still here, guys? And we're getting smaller and smaller and more contracted. I think at some point, even if this were to come down a little bit, I think it's going to go. We have the bullish piercing and bullish engulfing, big buying pressure candlesticks here, which I consider that to be the changing moment in time where this thing could potentially move on up. Most of the time it comes up, it may pull all the way back to 70 even. It could. That's kind of like the pattern is complete, or it could pull back, above it. But TAN looks pretty good from a big picture view. OIH is another one. This one's looking good. You can see this reverse head and shoulders developing. We'll see if it's got the mustard to keep it going. Let me throw in a trend line here just to see if we have anything and where it kind of ends up. Right here is where I'm looking for the break, and it broke already. Don't be afraid if this thing back tests and comes back to this line again. Retest, back test, and then move on up. URNM, this thing just looks ridiculous from this point here. This bullish piercing. So the bullish engulfing happened here. Another bullish engulfing. I'm like, ooh, this is going to get interesting. We came back almost to the bottom of it, and this is where you want to buy, is this bullish piercing. Boom, rocket launch. This is a rocket launch. Look at that. It's like stepping stones to go higher. Some sort of game. But that's what I have. I just wanted to go over all this with you guys. I did buy some COPX. I do think it looks pretty good, pretty solid. I think solid ETF. So copper, I'm a big copper bull. I'm a big bull on any of these guys. I own like everything. I've got a little bit of everything, or maybe it's a lot of everything. I don't know. I mean, I keep saying a little bit, but some of these positions are getting pretty large, and it's looking pretty good. So let's hope that the thesis I think is right. We are going to go into an expansionary phase of real estate. We're just starting to come up. I'll maybe show that in another video clip, and what that looks like. So, oh my goodness, hit me. So, if you guys like this content, give me a thumbs up. I appreciate you guys leaving comments and listening to me. So, thank you for listening. This is Finding Value.